Hey guys, Moldran here, and if you play online games, you probably already are aware of the problem with Chinese gold farming. Now, in games like Diablo, WoW, or many other games, there are people farming gold and basically bringing a lot of gold in the economy, destroying the economy of those games, or shifting like power and stuff, or making it really unfair. Now, let me start with the problem by showing you gold sellers of the games that we are playing, like Diablo and WoW. It's probably many games, but for example, if you Google here on eBay for, let's say, 1,000,000,000 gold, and if you do that, certain like eBay lists a lot of recommendations for 1,000,000,000 gold in Diablo, which is 1,000,000,000 gold, and I'm just gonna take a look at some of those. This here, this here. Let's take that one, that one, that one, and yeah, okay, we already have this one. Those are just a few examples, and what you can see, they're actually those people that actually sell the gold here have 287,000 sales. If the average sale value is $50 per transaction, this means that this one seller actually made 10 million euro just by selling gold and just on this platform. Like, he also might have also a website or other things in addition to that where they are selling gold. Another one here again, you have 280,000. This is a smaller one with 17,000, but even 70,000, even if it's only 17,000 transactions with $20 each, that's still 340,000 euro that those guys are making. And what I'm doing now is I want to check, like, okay, where are all those gold sellers from? Like, where do they originate? And here you can see this guy. Okay, that's not a real address, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the name here. And you can see Ort, which is German for location, Hong Kong. Let's click the next one here. This one says, again, Hong Kong. This one here might be something different. Let's see. Oh, this one is actually from China now. And this one here is also from China. And the last one that we check here is also from China. So pretty much every single one of them is from either China or Hong Kong. And the thing is, like in China, there are many, like nowadays it's not just like stores or shops with where gold farmers operate. Nowadays it's entire cities that where people like farm gold. And a few examples that I found on the net was this, for example, is a perfect gold farming facility. You have the gold farmers here. They're usually male. Like usually the male people do the gold farming on the computers. And then you have here other two computers here on the outside. Those are usually computers where the customer service staff is operating, like those that sell the gold. They provide support to people who buy it. And those are usually female workers. And then you have so-called overseers. The job of the overseers is that the gold farmers actually like spend their 12 or 18-hour shift like just farming gold. They make sure that no one is doing anything else, and make sure that everyone like does the job. Like those two people here are overseers. The girl here also has the badge, like the overseers usually have a badge. Here's another example. Again, you have the gold farmers, and the overseer here is this guy with the telephone in this case. But the problem goes even one step further. I've already mentioned this on my stream, but also going to mention it here, that China is actually using prisoners in lucrative internet gaming work. So the prisoners actually been forced to do hard labor. Like here it says, in the day they are breaking rocks and digging trenches, and at night they are farming gold. And people are being forced to farm gold. And here they say prison bosses made more money forcing inmates to play games than they do forcing people to do manual labor. They work 12-hour shifts. Imagine if you are being forced to farm gold in World of Warcraft for 12 hours and you're not able to do anything else. You would get insane. And yeah, the prisoners are making a lot of money. They're making 500 pounds a day. In China, this is an extreme amount of money. Like, other people there would be happy to get that money in 1 year. And they make it by 1 day. Because they sell the gold to rich European or rich American people. And yeah, the computers are never turned off. And another thing, if for example, they force you, the prison officers force you, for example, to farm, let's say, 5 million gold a day. And if you don't, like he says, if you don't complete the work quota, they would punish him physically. Like then you get really punished hard. So you better farm that gold. And that's pretty much where it originates from. Like, I think this is insane to what the world has become, but you know, it is China, and there's a lot of people farming gold now. But I don't even blame like the people farming gold, because for the prisoners, it's probably the only option to have without like being punished or receiving a lot of damage physically. And another thing, like people asking, why don't you just sue China? Well, if anyone remembers, like Athene was going for world first level 60, and one day before, like his plan was to start on the Chinese servers, which started like 6 hours prior to that. So he actually worked together with a Chinese guy who was supposed to like fake them some passports and IDs so he could start there, but didn't work out. And basically the Chinese guy said something then.
Fraud. He lost his account, and maybe we're gonna get fucking sued and to jail because of your fucking fraud.
No, this is China. They don't sue you.
And yeah, what he said was basically that in China they don't sue you like Western people, which is true. Like Chinese companies or officials, they don't go to other companies and try to sue them here. But on the other hand, it's also not possible, for example, for a Western gaming company to just go into China and say, hey, it's against the terms of service, people here are farming gold. First, give me $100 million now to compensate for the damages that I receive, and secondly, stop the gold farming. Do you think that would be successful on a Chinese court? The thing is, if you want to sue something in today's corporate world, you have to go to the other country and sue them there in the Chinese court. The Chinese court would say, just go home to your country. We're not going to support you here. We do our own stuff. And yeah, that's a pretty big problem now. There isn't really much we could do to like stop the gold farming. And the negative effects of the gold farming are big. They're causing a lot of problems. What the gold farming actually does, it only benefits one single group of gamers. And this is like the upper class, or the people who actually spend a lot of gold or money, real money, to buy that gold. Those are going to be the kings of games, and the other people, like the middle class, the upper middle class, and like the majority of players, they're going to have a big disadvantage. For example, let's take a look at Diablo 3. Now, in Diablo 3, because of all the gold potting and gold farming, this has led to like ridiculous prices on items. Like items, like good items or top items would go for several hundred million gold, sometimes even for billions of gold. And if you take a look at your character, like even if you play the game for a year, you probably only have like 200 million gold farmed or something, which would be enough to like maybe buy one or half of an item. Whereas like the people who buy the gold, who spend money on the game, not talking about the auctions flippers here in this case, but just about people who spend, or let's say buy 50 billion gold by spending money on the game, they're gonna have the top gear. But you as like a normal gamer, even if you play 10 times more than the guy who spends money on it, you gonna have like average gear or worse gear than him. And this just isn't fair, and I think this leads to many problems in game that luckily Blizzard is changing now with the removal of the auction house and limiting the importance of gold. Yeah, that's kind of that. Another problem I want to talk about is like copying. Now, if you know, like China for example, in China they sell like random watches, like my watch or just some $5 watch under the name of Rolex. So they say, this is a Rolex, get it. And this is a huge problem because China doesn't really care much about copyright issues. They just like name the stuff differently. And one example here is actually gaming. They actually copy games. There's an action RPG coming out. Now this is now in Asia, in Korea, but it's still part of Asia. And the action RPG, the villain, actually has 2 bosses in the game out of many bosses. And take a look at how those bosses are looking like. This is one boss. Ooh, have seen that one already somewhere. And this is another boss. The only thing that they changed is that this creature here is actually the boss of Act 3, and it looks like that. And this here is the boss of Act 4. But yeah, everyone knows like where those come from. It's an action RPG. It is actually really good. Like I really like the game, but still like they just copy bosses from another game that we all know. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. I really hope the game companies like find a way to like fight those gold bots or make gold really useless in games, because I want to play games where you get rewarded for actually playing the game or for being good at it rather than for spending money. So that were my 2 cents on gold farming. Thanks for watching. I'll be back.